Hello, motivators. Mic check, mic check. This is Marlene Motivates Your Life Coach. And thank you so much for tuning in to today's live stream and video. Let's start with the channel song and we'll get right into today's segment. Well, it doesn't look like my channel song is working, so we're going to skip that and get right into today's topic. I am Marlene Motivates, your life coach, and you know what we say over here. Just know it, just breathe it, and be it, and live your best life. As a life coach, I feel that it is so important to uh, really do evaluations of the way we're living our life and making sure that we're living our life according to the way that is with purpose. And today I'm going to get into 5 reasons why we need to pay attention to our gut instinct and to intuition. Now, let's get started. Let me put up my first point. And my first point is, of course, I have to say, welcome to Wisdom Wednesday podcast. I appreciate every single one of you. And this topic today is why you should trust your gut instinct, the power of listening to your inner voice. And yes, it's something very powerful to make sure that you are listening to that voice on the inside of you. Okay. Now, let's get started with segment one. What is gut instinct? What say you, Motivators family? What do you say gut instinct is? While you're thinking about that, have you ever had a feeling about something that you couldn't quite explain? Maybe you met someone for the first time and something inside of you said, be careful. Maybe you were about to make a major decision that looks perfect on paper, but something just didn't feel right. Or maybe you walked away from an opportunity because your heart kept telling you something didn't feel right. I know that I've been through this so many times in my life. It appeared to be one way, but something was like pulling me like a magnet. It's informing me that something wasn't right. I'm sure many of you motivators family have been through the same thing. It seemed like a good decision on paper, but something just didn't feel right. Or maybe you walked away from an opportunity because your heart kept telling you this isn't for me. And then later on, you discovered that your first instinct was right. We often call our that feeling our gut instinct. And it's that quiet inner voice, that feeling in our stomach, that subtle sense that says yes, no, or wait, because something just isn't right. But here's the problem. Many of us have been taught to not trust it. We've been taught to overthink. We've been taught to ask everyone else what they think we should do. See, and that's where we go wrong. We shouldn't allow other people to tell us how we should feel or what is right for us because different strokes for different folks. We've been taught to look for proof, for permission, approval, and certainty before we trust ourselves. And that's where we go wrong. Sometimes in the process, we become disconnected from one of the most powerful sources of information we have, our own inner voice. And today we're going to be talking about why our gut instinct matters and how to recognize it, how to separate intuition from fear, and why learning to trust yourself can completely change the way you make decisions. Because your intuition isn't necessarily about predicting your future, sometimes it's about recognizing what your conscious mind hasn't fully processed yet. So let's take a deep breath, settle in, and let's talk about the power of listening to your inner voice. Okay? Now, in segment one, we're going to be talking about what is a gut instinct, right? So let's start with this simple question. What exactly is gut instinct? Gut instinct or intuition is that immediate sense or impression you have without consciously working through every piece of information. It's that feeling of something feels off, or I don't know why, but I feel like I should take this opportunity, or I can't explain, but I don't think I should go. What's fascinating is that our brains constantly are gathering information, facial expressions, body language, the tone of voice, patterns, past experiences, small inconsistencies, things people say and things they don't say. So your conscious mind may not consciously put all the pieces together, but another part of your brain may recognize the pattern almost instantly. That's why intuition can sometimes feel mysterious. You don't necessarily know how, but you know. You just know that something doesn't feel right. Think about driving. After you've driven for years, you may suddenly slow down because something feels wrong. Maybe you notice your car is moving strangely. Maybe you saw something out of the corner of your eye. Maybe you sensed a change in traffic. You don't necessarily analyze every detail, you simply react. That's intuition, working with experience. And this is important because trusting your gut doesn't mean blindly following every emotion you experience. It means learning to pay attention to your internal signals. Your intuition is information. It deserves to be heard, but it also deserves to be examined. Okay. Now let's get into segment two. Let's start to unpack some things. Why we ignore our inner voice. So, if intuition can be powerful, why do we ignore it? That's a very important question. If intuition is so powerful, why do we ignore it? One of the major reasons is we want certainty. We want guarantees. We want someone to tell us, yes, this is definitely the right decision. But life rarely gives us that. Instead, we find ourselves thinking, what if I'm wrong? What will people think? Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm imagining things. I should probably give this one more chance, right? And sometimes we talk ourselves out of what we already know. Think about how often you have felt something internally and then immediately try to explain it away. You feel uncomfortable around someone. I'm probably just being judgmental. You don't want to take a particular opportunity. Maybe I'm just scared. You know a relationship isn't healthy for you. Maybe things will change, you will tell yourself. You know you're exhausted and need rest. I should just push through. We can become so skilled at overriding ourselves that we stop recognizing our own signals. And sometimes we're afraid that trusting ourselves will disappoint other people. We worry about being called difficult, sensitive, unreasonable, indecisive, selfish, but there's something worth remembering. You are the person who has to live with your decisions. Let that marinate for a little bit. You are the person who has to live with your decisions. Other people can give you advice, they can share your opinions, they can tell you what they would do, but ultimately, they aren't living your life. You are. That's why developing self trust is so important. And that's why this topic is so important. We really need to stop ignoring our inner voice and learn to trust it. But how do we do that? We're going to go into our next segment, intuition versus fear. Now, this is one of the hardest things really to recognize. So let's recognize one of the biggest questions. How do you know whether you're listening to your intuition or simply reacting out of fear? Because fear can be loud, anxiety can be loud, overthinking can be loud. Intuition is often much quieter. Fear might say, what if everything goes wrong? Don't do it. You're going to fail. Everyone is going to judge you. You have to figure this out right now. Intuition may sound more like, this doesn't feel right. Wait, take your time. Something is missing. I think this is the direction I need to go. Fear often creates urgency. Intuition often creates awareness. Fear can send you into a spiral. Intuition can be surprisingly calm, even when the message is difficult. But there isn't always a perfect distinction. Sometimes intuition and your fear can be tangled together. That's why you don't necessarily need to make an immediate decision. You can pause, take a walk, sleep on it, write down what you're feeling, and most importantly, ask yourself this question: what am I actually afraid of? This is something really we need to unpack, motivators. Ask ourselves this question: what am I actually afraid of? And then ask yourself, if I remove the fear of disappointing people, failing, or being judged, what do I genuinely want? I see we have Miss Eunice in the building. Good morning, Miss Eunice. Yes, all is well here. I hope all is well with you. And this right here, Motivators family, is where I want to take a pause and I want for us to unpack for a little bit. What am I actually afraid of? Hmm. Then you ask yourself, if I remove the fear of disappointing people, failing, or being judged, what do I genuinely want? That question reveals a lot, because if you get to the really, what is it that I'm afraid of? Not other people's projections, not what other people think, not the validation, but really, what am I afraid of? If I remove the fear of disappointing people, take that, push that to the side. If I remove the fear of failing, take that and push it to the side. If I remove the fear of being judged, what do I genuinely want? Now we're going to really get into the really important part. Okay. And let me put that point up on here. Segment 4, learning to trust yourself. Okay. So, trusting your gut is not something you develop overnight. I can tell you that. It takes a while. It takes wisdom, it takes personal growth, it takes self awareness, it takes healing, it takes trusting your gut instinct, learning to trust yourself. And it doesn't happen overnight. You're not just going to wake up one day and trust when you something doesn't feel right, when you're questioning something, when the energy doesn't seem right. It takes a while for you to actually believe yourself and to be confident in your decisions, that it's not based on other people's projections, trying to people please, trying to make everybody happy. It's learning to trust, how is this decision going to impact me? Am I going to be happy at the end of the day? How am I going to live with this decision that I'm making? Am I trying to make other people happy? Is this good for me, or is this good for other people? And oftentimes we get so consumed with trying to make everybody around us happy that we forget about how we feel, how it affects our mental health. Are we at peace? Is this going to drag us down? How much is this going to impact us? Will we be growing? So, you got to work on learning to trust yourself. And I can tell every single one of you. It took me a long time to learn to shut off the outside noise. And that outside noise of validation, of expectations, of not trying to make everybody happy. If you get into that mode of always trying to make your siblings and your relatives and this person and that person happy, you will get so far off track from your goals, from your objectives, from your peace of mind. You'll be lost. And that's not what I want for us. I don't want for us to be lost. I want you to really trust your gut instinct and not go with the manipulation, not go with the drama, not go with what this person says, and they won't like if I do this decision. Remember, it's your life. Remember how you feel. Remember, you're going to have to deal with the consequences of your decisions. Don't let other people's projections of their fears, trying to control you, trying to tell you what you should do. And this is what I would do. No, you really have to think about yourself. And it does not make you selfish. It means you're real. It means you love yourself. Yes, exactly, Miss Eunice. Exactly. Yeah, and it's really exhausting. It's exhausting, always putting everybody first. And I can't tell you guys how many years that I did that. So many years, putting myself last, knowing that something didn't feel right, but not having enough confidence, not having enough courage, letting other people manipulate me, following what other people said I should do, and not having enough courage to say, no, that's not what I want. This is what I want to do. And learning to quiet the outside noise, extinguish it, and stop pacifying what you know you're feeling inside, what your mind is telling, what your inner you is telling you. It's warning you all the bells and the whistles, and we know that there, those red flags, they go off and they tell us, don't do it. Leave this alone. Don't walk down this path. Don't make this decision. Don't be in this relationship. Don't listen to this person. You should not trust that. We always get those inklings. We always have those warning signs, but we have to learn to trust our gut instinct. Yes, most definitely. It's a part of self love. Most definitely. We have to love ourselves enough to know this benefits me. We can't live our life in the shadows of other people, supporting other people, because guess what happens at the end of it? You get hurt, you get stranded, you get your heart broken. People will still do what they want to. You become sucked dry. And at the end of it, you are the one that has to pick up the pieces and start all over again. And guess what winds up happening? You still wind up doing what you should have done from the beginning. That's the point. You still have to do some retracting, taking some step backwards, and still do what you wanted to do from the beginning. So stop waiting for others' validation. Stop waiting for other people's support. You know what you want to do. You don't have to go and ask sister, auntie, mama, cousin, friend, this person, that person. Stop asking for their validation. Stop asking what they would do. You know what you should do. Trust that, ladies and gentlemen. Trust that, motivators family, okay? Trust that, okay? Listen to yourself. Trust yourself enough that after all of the things that you're feeling, the signs, everything, I feel like some things are just written on the wall. You see it, it's not right. Their actions are proving it. Believe that. Learn to trust yourself, okay? Trust your gut in, that it's not something you develop overnight. It's a relationship you develop with yourself. Just like it takes time to develop romantic relationship, friendship, all relationships, people that you care about, you have to learn to have a relationship with yourself. And it's learning to trust the decisions that you make. Trust that, and even writing it down. This doesn't seem right. They didn't do this. This doesn't seem right. And believing in yourself, being confident, asserting yourself, and not going down a dark road, a dark alley, a dark path, following someone down a path that you don't even know, as to where where that light is leading to. When your gut is saying don't do it. It's the bells are going off, the whistles are going off, it's saying stop, do not pass go, don't do this. Listen to it. And also on the other side, listen when your gut tells you to do something. It's so many times where I sabotage my peace and my opportunities, my well being, following behind other people when my gut says, go for it. Now it's the time. And the sad part is, people will tell you to not do something because they don't want you to be successful. They don't want you to have peace in your life. They don't want you to surpass them. They don't want you to learn. They want you to stay angry, mean, stuck, broke, broken, always doing what you always did. They want you to be full of drama. When you begin to learn and to grow, and you trust your gut instinct, not just going down a dark path, but you've done your research. See, this is the part, motivators family. We're not just trusting our gut and going through things blindly. We feel the that energy that is warning us, don't do this. Your gut is saying don't do it, it's not a good decision. Or you may have had people tell you that's not a good decision. But let's be real, we want to do what we want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do anyways, right? Don't tell me what to do. So really, when that gut instinct is telling you don't do it, please listen to your gut instinct. Miss Eunice says, yeah, it's a waste of time and energy when you should do what's right for you in the first place. I can't tell you how many times I wish I would have gone for opportunities. I wish I would have done some things that I knew would have benefited me, but I wasn't confident enough. I wasn't courageous enough. I didn't believe in myself and believe in myself. I was not self aware and I didn't have enough positive self talk. I was too negative. I was surrounding myself with negative people, judgmental people. So, of course, if you follow people down that path, you will crash and burn. And some things you can't recover from. Some things you can reset and start again, but some things, once that opportunity has passed, it's over. But you can turn the page and we can learn a lesson. And that's one of the best things that you can ever do, Motivators family. One of the best things that you can ever do is give yourself the permission to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself when you didn't trust yourself. Forgive yourself when you didn't do what you know you needed to do. It's not about making excuses. The blame game gets you nowhere. What happens a lot of times, it's easy for us to point fingers and blame other people, blame your parents, blame your ex, blame this person, blame that person, when you need to be looking at yourself in the mirror and say, no, I dropped the ball. I didn't do what I needed to do. I didn't trust my gut instinct. See, while people will give you advice, it's up to you to take it. It's up to you to apply it. It's up for you to pivot and say, that's not what I want to do. Yes, that gut instinct is trying to protect us. We have to tap into it and listen. And Miss Eunice and chat, that's the hard part, listening to ourselves. Listening when someone tells us something, even somebody who, is a relative, somebody that we care about, and they may have hurt feelings when you don't listen to them. But remember, at the end of the day, this is your life and you have to live with your decisions. You do. You have to live with the consequences of your actions. You can't keep blaming everybody for what isn't happening. You have to make it happen. So, and like any relationship, it gets stronger through practice. So the more you trust yourself, the more you trust your gut instinct, it gets stronger. So, how can we do this? We start small. If something doesn't feel right, don't immediately dismiss the feeling. Pause. Ask yourself, why am I thinking this way? Is there some merit to this? Is there something underneath this? So don't automatically extinguish things. Don't automatically say, "Oh, nah, that's not a good decision. I shouldn't do this." No. Ask yourself why you're feeling this way. There is some merit. If something pops up and says, "Don't do it," don't automatically dismiss it. There is something to that. Ask yourself why. If something feels exciting and meaningful, don't immediately talk yourself out of it either. Pay attention. Keep a journal. Write down moments when you had strong instinct. What did you feel? What did you notice? What happened afterward? Over time, you may begin to recognize your own patterns. You'll learn what intuition feels like for you, because everyone's inner voice may sound different. For some people, it's a physical sensation. For others, it's a thought that keeps returning, like it won't go away. It keeps circling back. For someone else, it's a sense of peace when something is right or tension when something isn't. Recognize that. The goal isn't to become obsessed with every feeling. The goal is to become more connected to yourself. And there's another important part of trusting yourself is keeping the promises you make to yourself. And I found that this is one of the most valuable things ever is learning to keep the promises that I make to myself. If I tell myself I'm going to do something, I have to keep my own word. I have to um, be trustworthy with myself. I have to honor myself. I have to be real with myself. And I have to stop dropping the ball and then making excuses when, if we're going to keep it real, if we're going to be transparent and honest with ourselves, we just are using them as a blame, as an excuse, as as the fallback for why we don't want to do it, and we really don't want to do it, and we're just blaming somebody else because it's easier to do that. It's easier to say this person, oh, I was busy or I was tired and I had to do this for that person, when in reality we know inside of ourselves, we know we just didn't want to do it. Or we just know we were doubting ourselves and we need to encourage ourselves and tell ourselves, you can do it. Don't be afraid. Be afraid. Be scared and do it anyways. Don't let your fear control you. Don't let fear control you. Let fear elevate you. Do things scared. Do things without knowing what you're going to do next. It's okay. It's okay to fall down. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's not okay to stay stagnant. It's not okay to keep blaming your parents, your kids, this person or that person, and stop blaming the past. Stop blaming because, oh, because this person hurt me. Now I can't do it because they broke my heart. Let's stop doing that. Stop making excuses for your behavior. Remember, you're an adult. We're adults. You got to let go of the past and live in the present and trust your gut instinct. It's vital to do that. Vital. You'll never have joy in your life. You'll never have peace. You'll never grow and be who you deserve to be if you don't walk past the uncomfortable. If you don't get outside of your comfort zone, you're never going to get to success. You'll never get to peace. You'll never get to your personal growth and development if you only stay in the comfort zone. I'm just keeping it real. I'm just telling you what I had to walk through. There's so many times where I'm scared of doing things. There's so many times where I feel like I don't think I can do it, but that's when you encourage yourself. That's when you have accountability partners and mentors and coaches and people who will encourage you. When you're feeling that way, that's when you tap in and say, I'm scared right now and I want to run. That's when you say, no, don't run, move towards it. You can do it. You got this. And you also have to tell yourself, too, I got this. I can do it. Don't run from opportunities because of fear. Let your fear couple with your faith. Okay. Now, here's a very important part. Remember to keep the promises you make to yourself. If you tell yourself you're going to rest, rest. If you know you need a boundary, communicate that. If you know you need to walk away from something unhealthy, honor that. Do what feels best for you. Do what you know that doesn't feel right. If it doesn't feel right, you don't need to have nobody to validate that. It doesn't feel right, so I'm not going to do it. Learn to trust yourself. Yeah, it's so very true. It's so very true. Now, this is the thing. If you know you need to walk away from something unhealthy, honor that. Every time you listen to yourself, you send yourself a message. And this is what I really want you all to pay attention to this. Every time you listen to yourself, you send yourself a message. And this is the message: I can trust me. I can trust me. And that is so incredibly powerful. When you learn to trust yourself, when you have that um, deposited into your brain, I can trust myself. I can do this. I can do great things. I am intelligent. I am capable. I am worthy. I do deserve things. See, until you tell yourself, until you believe in yourself, until you can walk through those times of fear, those times of doubt, you're never going to achieve until you can allow yourself to say, I can trust me. And you can trust yourself. Now here we're here on the last point, and the last point is when your gut tells you to walk away. How many of you motivators family have had those gut instinct and says walk away? Even sometimes it says run, get out of here, right? Sometimes your intuition doesn't lead you towards something. Sometimes your intuition tells you to leave. Leave the conversation, leave the environment, leave the relationship, leave the job, leave the situation. And walking away can be incredibly difficult because we often confuse, I should say, famil- familiar familiarity with safety. So something has to be familiar for us to feel safe. So when you're not familiar, when you don't have the knowledge, when you're not very sure of it, that's when you feel like maybe I shouldn't walk away, because you'd rather stay in the comfort zone than get out of the comfort zone. Something can be familiar and still be unhealthy. I can't tell you guys how often I stayed in a friendship. I stayed in a relationship just because I was used to it, just because that's what other people have projected. That's what you should do. Or you're a good person if you stay around. See, many people confuse loyalty and they let loyalty blind them. They stay in a very toxic romantic relationship. They stay in a toxic friendship. They allow their relatives to use them and puppet them. They allow all relationships to puppet them so that they stay because they feel like they should be quote unquote quote loyal. That's what makes them a good person, because they stick around. See, loyalty, being a doormat, being a puppet, being used, being disrespected, being abused, isn't going to win you any badges. You're not going to be successful. What the opposite is what's going to happen. You're going to be miserable. You're going to feel lost and confused. Your money will be low. No, trust that gut instinct when it is warning you to go the other direction and leave. And I can tell you from personal experience, closing doors, blocking people not only brought me peace, but it allowed me to unlock my potential. It allowed me to use my gifts. It allowed me to see my blessings. It allowed me to manifest things, because when people are in your way, they are keeping you stuck. They are blocking your positive energy. They are stopping you from elevating. They're stopping you from being your best and growing in your growth potential. So here I am as your life coach, and I'm encouraging you. Don't let being scared stop you. Don't let walking away from the fear of newness and turning the page stop you from walking away? See, think about what you're going to gain: your peace, your joy, fulfilling your passion, more financial stability, and so much more if you have the courage. Yes, motivators, it takes courage to walk away. It takes courage to trust your gut instinct. It takes courage to believe in yourself. It takes courage to walk down a path sometimes on your own, because people will say, "You're making a bad decision." People will make you feel like you've lost your mind when you haven't. You're right on track. You're doing exactly what you are supposed to be doing. hmm Exactly what you are supposed to be doing. Why people don't want you to walk down that path, why people don't want you to leave, because now they can't use you. Now they don't have access to you. Now they can't get your money. Now they can't puppet you. Now they can't step on you. And they don't like that. So they're not doing it because of they of loyalty to you. It's because now they can't crush you. Now they can't hinder you. Now they can't hold you back from your gifts. Don't let other people hold you back from your gifts, your potential, your blessings, your light, your progression in your life. Trust your instincts and trust it today. Okay? So leave the conversation, leave the environment, leave the relationship, leave the job, leave the situation. And I just have to say this: something can look good on paper and still not be right for you. Something can be comfortable and still be holding you back. You don't always need a dramatic reason to choose yourself. This, I really want you to pay attention to this message. Sometimes this no longer feels right for me is enough. Hang on to these words. This no longer feels right for me. And that is enough. If it doesn't feel right, if you're not growing, if you have no peace, if your mental health is all messed up, they have you frustrated, stressed out, angry, or maybe you're just stuck, you're not growing. They have you under their thumb, they're controlling you. Trust that gut instinct. It's time to walk away. And you don't have to tell them why. Just cut off access, block them, stop talking to them, and start doing you. It always is a good thing to grow, to be happy, to have peace. And many people that you know of, people who will you've known your whole life, your blood relatives, someone you're in a romantic relationship, they'll be the very ones that don't want you to trust your gut instinct, because you will surpass them, because you'll start to make money. You will become more educated. You will have more fun. You will have friendships. You will have hopes and dreams. You will be accomplishing goals, and they don't like that. They don't want you to do better. They don't want you to be happy. They want you to be angry. They want you to be complaining. As long as you were who you were before and you were angry and you were full of drama and you were complaining and you weren't doing anything, you were miserable and crying. See, they like that version of you that would shrink. That people love the shrinking version of you, that you weren't really doing anything with your life, that you weren't healthy. They like that version of you where you were sick and you were unhappy and you were miserable and you weren't out doing things. You weren't having fun. You weren't traveling and having fun with your life. Your financial situation wasn't good. They don't like that now. you have a better financial situation. They don't like now that you have your business going. They don't like now that you're educated. They don't like this confident version of you, the version of you that you assert yourself, the version that says no and it will not change, that they can't manipulate and control this version of you. They can't, because this version of you is happy. This version trusts themselves. Okay? And learning that difference, it takes time and it requires honesty. So here I am on this final message. I want to leave you with this thought. Your inner voice has probably been speaking to you for a long time. I'll say that again. Your inner voice has been probably speaking to you for a very long time. The question isn't always whether you have intuition. The question is whether you've been willing to listen. Maybe there's something in your life right now that you've been questioning. Maybe you've been asking yourself for everyone else for advice. Maybe you've been waiting for a sign. Maybe the answer isn't outside of you. Maybe part of the answer is already inside of you. So take a moment, get quiet, step away from all the opinions, and ask yourself, what do I already know? Not what do I wish were true, not what would make everyone else happy, not what would look best from the outside, but what do I already know? Sometimes the answer will be uncomfortable. Sometimes it will require courage. Sometimes it will require patience. And sometimes it will lead you towards something beautiful that you were too afraid to pursue. Your gut instinct isn't a magical guarantee that you'll never make a mistake. You're still human, but you're still going to get things wrong sometimes. But trusting yourself means knowing that you can listen, learn, adjust, and pivot so that you can keep moving forward. You don't need to have every answer. You don't need everyone's approval, and you don't need absolute certainty before taking the next step. Sometimes you simply need to listen. Listen to the quiet feeling. Listen to the hesitation. Listen to the excitement. Listen to the peace. Listen to the part of you that says, this matters, because your inner voice may not always shout. Sometimes it whispers. And learning to trust that whisper, learning to trust yourself will help you to begin simply becoming quiet enough to bend your ear and hear it. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, remember, you know yourself better than you think. Trust yourself. Listen inward and don't be afraid to follow the voice within you. Blessings to everybody. I am Marlene Motivates, your life coach, and thank you so much for tapping into this conversation. If you have enjoyed it, feel free to like, to subscribe, and if you're listening in the replay, thank you so much. And leave me a comment below. I really appreciate you. And I will see you all back on tomorrow for the Red Zone series with Boss Life Online. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you guys then.